Hey, what's up, guys? Matt and Ryan here, Fantasy Baseball. We're going to do a live mock draft. I didn't realize this thing is like right about to start, so let's get over to screen sharing. Apparently, I got the second overall pick. This is a points league, I think, head-to-head, but we're going to discuss it more than anything and not really worry about like the scoring system. I play more Roto, you play more points league. That's not the point. So, speak of the devil, we were just talking over bets right before I realized that we were sleeping on this thing starting. Trout's clearly still your number one overall pick. I mean, Betts is number two. I think, to me, that's a clear-cut 1-2, and then after that, you can start making your conversations around Jose Ramirez, Nolan Arenado, and JD.
It is a clear-cut 1-2. And it's, it just is what it is. You definitely take Betts too. And this is the type of thing where we were just talking about this, Trout is better than Betts on a long-term scale, et cetera, the better player. Right now he's the best player in the game. But that doesn't mean that, Betts couldn't have the better year this year. And if that happens, picking second could be a godsend.
Right. And I was telling you that right before this started, if you get me one more year of Mookie Betts doing what he's done 2 of the last 3 years, because the middle season in between them wasn't anything special, I think you really have to look at vaulting him up to like being in that Mike Trout conversation overall.
Agreed. And now, just because it's hard to talk about one guy too long, we've already seen 2 pitchers go in the top 5 now, and I'm praying that Arenado falls to me. With outfield eligibility, though, I'll snatch Martinez. I'll snatch one of these 2 for sure.
Right. I'm so happy that I don't have to sit here and talk to you this offseason about how great JD Martinez is. Like, it's apparent now. This guy this happens to do it once in a while. He just learned how to hit halfway through his career. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I don't really care that he doesn't offer that much value outside of hitting, because this is a fantasy league.
All right. He is that good at hitting the baseball. Sometimes guys just do the subtlest little thing and it changes and, vaults their career up into a direction that maybe you wouldn't have seen coming 5 years ago. But ever since that a season with Detroit, I mean, this is going on 2+ years now of him being arguably the best hitter in baseball. Not the best offensive player because he can't run, but the best hitter.
Yeah. Between these 2 right here, Martinez and Arenado, who do you prefer?
I'm going to take Arenado to get the third base eligibility personally. And I also, Coors Field, not that saying that you can't crush in Fenway, but I have Arenado just a touch above JD. Same.
I think they're very, very comparable hitters. I mean, they really are. It's about as close as you can get. The third base eligibility, the better, ballpark factor that you give it to Coors. I like Arenado too, but I'll be happy with either of them. So I hope the guy who picks 6 goes.
If Arenado and JD were traded straight up right now and Arenado was in Boston and JD was in Colorado, I'd draft JD Martinez.
Yeah, I get that. But for me, Arenado at 7 is a steal. I mean, this guy was like a consensus top 3 pick last year. Nothing's changed.
Exactly. So we dropped down to a couple of guys after that I feel like we should definitely discuss, because I was just talking about Christian Yelich. You guys know I'm a monster Wisconsin sports fan. Obviously, the Brewers are my team. I struggle still to pick him at number 8 overall. What he did the second half of last year is one of the greatest halves of baseball anybody has ever seen. But it was just a half of baseball. He's always been good, but I just don't know if he can live anywhere close up to that moving into the season. So I would be a little bit reluctant to go there like early or even, in the first round.
In the first round for sure. But I'll tell you what, if you got a guy like Corey Kluber going 8th overall, all systems go, because I take Yelich far ahead of Kluber.
Sure, but I would rather have Jose Altuve than Christian Yelich. Longer track record of success, middle infield eligibility. We also know that Altuve's in a great bounce back spot this year. And
I have a tough one right here. I'm on the clock, and I can't decide between Lindor and Altuve.
Lindor's hurt. It's easy.
Lindor's hurt, but he's only supposed to miss like a week. I'm not too worried about that.
Lingering injury, maybe. Like, I don't know. Like, it's when it's a serious injury in the preseason, it gives me enough cause for pause to give me the coin flip to Altuve.
If you generally think they're even, then sure. But I happen to think Lindor is a better player. The better fantasy players got more power, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm not sure it's an even swap. And I'm hearing Lindor will be back in a year. That said, I'll agree with you here and take Altuve.
And I do think another point that we touched on yesterday when discussing somebody, know your point system right here. Because if you're not hurt by strikeouts, or if you're hurt by strikeouts, Altuve just doesn't care. So I'm on the clock right now, and you have to ask yourself something. Do you want to go for upside? Ronald Acuna Jr. is about as respected as any prospect that we can, remember in recent history. Whereas if you look right below him, you got Freddie Freeman and Paul Goldschmidt, which are, two guys that, let's just put it, exactly what you're getting with them. And it seems crazy to see Bryce Harper down there at 23. So I think there's good arguments for everybody on the clock right now. Because it's a mock draft, I'm going to have fun and pick Ronald Acuna Jr. But this is all about how you value upside versus, a safe pick.
I couldn't agree with you more. We love Acuna's upside, and you can make a case for a ton of guys that we're starting to get into the territory where cases can be made for a lot of guys. One thing I just want to touch on, the two guys I've drafted so far, and I alluded to this with Arenado, and I like drafting like this. Obviously, you don't want to go out of your way to do this, but Altuve and Arenado were the consensus second and third picks last year. They each were probably not quite as good as people wanted them to be, and that's why they're falling. But to have them as my top two picks, picking seventh overall, is awesome, I think.
Also, that's kind of been a theme of our preseason show so far. It's draft guys who had a little bit of an off year and now are being completely devalued based on something that could have been bad luck, injuries, or anything like that. And we can get back into that subject. I do want to say this is a sweet spot right here because Goldie is a steal at 20. Aaron Judge is a steal at 22. And Bryce Harper, as hard as I am on him, I mean, this is a guy who's gone number 1, number 2, number 3 overall a lot of times. We don't know where he ends up, but he's going to go somewhere. Like, imagine if you put Bryce Harper in a Yankees uniform right now. He could be the number 3 guy right behind Betts.
Seriously, he's going somewhere. This is like the worst case scenario. I mean, what if he ended up in San Diego with Machado? He wouldn't drop any farther than he is right now in drafts. He's firmly on my radar here. I kind of wish I had a starting pitcher to build around, but I just couldn't pass the value that I've had so far, and I'll approach that, in a couple rounds because there's no pitcher here worth taking, I don't think.
Oh, I'm up again. Harper, speak of the devil. Well, I've got a loaded outfield right now. I just want to make sure that I comment on this. I wouldn't normally go outfield. We're more here to talk about these picks than we are to actually build a team. It's a mock draft. I don't think tripling up on outfield to start, even though this is like a great outfield, is not where I typically want to go to begin a draft.
Probably not. Things would have to really, fall that way to happen. It kind of did here. I'm back on the clock now, and a little bit murky territory for me. Like I said, I want a pitcher. There's no one standing out to me right here. How about you?
Cole, Blackmon, Snell are the places I would go.
Snell is the guy that's really calling my name. We both like him a lot. I like Tampa. Snell is an ace. Let's rock him.
Yeah, he's sky's the limit with this young guy. It's another guy that we discussed a lot of guys early last year, preseason. I was bigger on Snell in the beginning of the year than you were, and I feel like as the season progressed, you became the bigger Snell guy.
Yeah, he's just really good, and I think it continues off where it left last year. Interested to see where a guy like Marquez goes here, although I shouldn't be too interested because he'll probably go when I take him.
So I do think, like, discussing Blake Snell and our preseason thoughts on him last year, I thought it would be a good year for him. I thought he was going to take the next step, but that's just a guess. You know what I mean? Like, there's a million times I've made similar picks where it has worked terribly and not worked out. You're going to get some guys right. You're going to get some guys wrong. Snell was a guy I had right last year, but you got to take some shots on that because you're going to miss all the time. And I have missed a million times in my life doing fantasy drafts. We all have, you know what I mean? Like, but those are your upside plays that you got to make because Blake Snell in the late rounds last year was a money pick for your fantasy year.
The funny thing is, I feel like there was 3 guys really that we went hard over last year. We liked all 3. You love Snell. I like Snell. I love Nola. You like Nola. And we both loved Weaver.
We both loved Weaver, and he was terrible.
Yeah, exactly. So you never know. I'm back on the clock soon, and honestly, if Blackmon's still there, I will take him. I like having Blackmon and Arenado, the Coors Field combo. I
also think Blackmon's an interesting guy to discuss right now because he was another guy who was a consensus top pick overall. Is he on the way down, or was it a bad year? And I like to look at a guy's age. I don't know about Blackmon. I think it could go either way. I think anybody is guessing. He is at that age where you do start to see a decline in people, but he's not so old that for sure he's on the decline. It could have just been a little bit of a rough year.
Yeah, so I think the answer to both those questions is yes. I think a little bit had to do with a down year. I think a little bit had to do with him aging. I don't love him this year. The value's real here. But I still don't think I can pull the trigger simply because, I'd rather have Rhys Hoskins than him.
Sure. He doesn't run anymore either, which definitely, not run much, which definitely hurts his overall value, especially like in a roto league where you used to draft him as that dual threat. Well, now he's more of a power hitter and not much of a stolen base guy. 13 steals, a guy like Benintendi could easily double him up, a few picks later.
We talk about this all the time also, the only reason that I'm even kind of thinking about Blackmon over Hoskins right now is because he's ranked higher. If Hoskins were ranked higher than Blackmon, wouldn't even be a thought. Can't fall prisoner to the rankings at all. I don't care that Hoskins is 20 below Blackmon. That means nothing to me.
And to play devil's advocate right there, Charlie Blackmon is a guy who's been a first rounder several years in a row. He could bounce back this year and be the number 4 fantasy guy.
Agreed. And to play devil's advocate to what I said, there's also draft strategy. Like Hoskins is so far down where he might be available for my next pick. I doubt it, but you have to play that, on both sides of the fence.
And it's different, like you said, like in a mock draft right now, that it would be like if you're in one of your competitive leagues. Right. What are your thoughts on Kershaw? Because I have no interest in Kershaw.
No, I'm not drafting Kershaw. It's my pick here. He's under no consideration. Honestly, it's between Blackmon, Hoskins, and the 2 Indians pitchers for me. I think I can get one of the Indians pitchers for my next pick, so I'm going to draft Hoskins.
All right. I like the Bauer upside. I think Carrasco is an extremely safe play.
Yeah, exactly. I think they're both solid guys you can plug in.
All right. So when I'm up here right now, I got a couple of guys I'm looking at. In a roto league where I wanted to go for steals, I think the dual eligibility of Whit Merrifield can't be understated. I have no interest in Rendon personally. I like Benintendi, but this to me is a spot where I want to take a shot with a guy who's another first-round potential play and start taking a look at my middle infield, which is Carlos Correa. Off year last year, things did not go well. He and many of the Astros were disappointments. Injuries was an issue. But we know that Carlos Correa is a guy who has been going significantly earlier in drafts prior seasons, and it's a great opportunity for a bounce-back year. I get number 1 possible value with a 4th-round pick.
Yeah, I get your logic there. I don't love Correa like, how you sold him, but trust me, he's definitely someone I've thought about for all those same reasons.
Right. And again, we don't know if he continues to develop. Maybe he's just a guy who never reaches like the extremely high bar. Some people
he was really, really good though 2 years ago, to your point. Like he was that guy. So it's not like it would be crazy. I kind of do think that you're more right than wrong there.
All right, so I'm just going to quickly step down right here, and there isn't anybody really calling my name any lower. So once I drop below there, I know I can wait on those guys. I like Benintendi, but I don't want a 4th outfielder. This to me is another spot where I'm going to take a shot, and I'm going to go with Cody Bellinger, who I'm looking to develop again this year. He's another guy. We've seen the upside. He had some rough stretches of last year where he looked like that sophomore slump we've seen out of people. It's another guy. A lot of upside right there. I don't feel safe with it. This could be a bad pick. I know that, but I also know it's a league-winning type of pick if he gets back that magic he had year 1. And even though he's an outfielder, he also gives me first base eligibility, and I love dual eligibility as the season progresses and you pick guys up off the wire.
Yeah, I get it. Makes a ton of sense. I'm in a kind of similar situation because now I'm back on the clock, and there's no one calling my name here.
Gleyber Torres.
I don't love Torres like that. The guy that's really calling my name is Vlad Jr. Really risky to pick him this high here. You know what? I'll take Torres so you can speak your case on him. Tell me why.
He's middle infield in a loaded team. We saw a lot of great things out of Torres last year. We've talked about the Yankees at length. And, you love Sanchez. I like Sanchez. We like Stanton. We like Aaron Judge. It is easy to pick up peripherals playing in a loaded lineup in a joke of a ballpark like Yankee Stadium. He gives you dual eligibility at second and shortstop. Now, is he a guy who could potentially hit that sophomore slump? Definitely. I'm always leery of second-year players. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. But we've seen the sophomore slump over and over again throughout decades of baseball watching. That being said, I like everything else about him. Loaded lineup, joke of a ballpark for offense. Yankee Stadium is definitely one of those spots where home runs come real easy. And he gives you not just middle infield eligibility, double middle infield eligibility. And the season progresses, you can play him either place.
That's true. I'm sold. I like this kid also, as you know. Top prospect, was traded to the Yankees in the Aroldis Chapman deal, so comes with a lot of pedigree and was really good last year. The sophomore slump is my only concern here. And maybe, I am blowing that a little bit out of proportion here because I love your point that when all is said and done, like I want I want guys in the Yankees lineup. I mean, Yankees, Colorado, but Yankees is where it's at.
Right. There are certain teams are going to score runs this year. Colorado, New York, the Cubs, the Brewers are going to score some runs this year. There are teams that are going to score, and it's just easier to get RBIs and runs when the players around you get through the lineup. You get extra at-bats, and they also drive you in and around base to let you drive them. The Red Sox, I can't believe I forgot them. They're going to score runs. The Astros, which is another reason I talk about Carlos Correa. I expect a nice bounce-back year from the Astros this year. Altuve was hurt. Springer had a down year. Correa was hurt. A lot of those things could turn back around. I'm looking at George Springer right there. The only reason I wouldn't draft him is because I have 3 outfielders already.
So I'm about to draft Springer right now because I agree with your Houston points. I only have Hoskins in my outfield. I like the Hoskins-Springer combo. Vladimir Guerrero Jr., who we will make a video on soon enough because I think it's pertinent, just went. So Springer's my guy here. There's not like one thing I love about Springer, but I like everything about him.
Little speed, good amount of pop, plays in the lineup that we expect to have a nice bounce-back season. All right, so I'm on the clock right now and just running down a few of these guys. I have zero interest in drafting relief pitchers already. Love what Paxton could do in New York, but his injury history really scares me off of him. A guy that I'm going to look at right here is going way too low because he's coming off of an injury-plagued season is Corey Seager.
Yeah, I get that. I knew that you'd probably go there. I feel like he's a guy you're going to end up a lot of in real-life drafts.
Probably, because this is a guy who was going second and third round, had some injuries, so now he's being devalued. That's a theme that we both run with. Look for guys who have a long track record or at least a decent track record of success, had a bad year for injuries or whatever reason. Now their draft value is very depleted, so you're drafting them in round 5 when last year they were round 2, or you're getting them in round 11 when last year they were round 6 or something like that.
Definitely. Another team, and we talked about a guy from them yesterday that I think is very undervalued, is the Twins. I think they have a lot of pieces that are like firmly in play all over, but that people.
Right, I'm going to pause you for 1 second just because I'm up. There is a guy on this page that we both like, and I don't have that position filled yet. Do you know who I'm going to draft?
Suarez.
You're damn right, Mr. Bellman.
Yeah, I knew it. I didn't even look at your teams. I didn't know you needed a third baseman, but we both like Suarez a ton. Another great ballpark, another team that's making moves to get better. So I was just talking about the Twins. I'm not going to take anyone from the Twins here. But you know a guy who I'm going to take, and I'm kind of doubling up with Phillies, and this is a good talking point right here, and I don't think this is a reach at all, JT Realmuto.
Yeah, we've talked about him. You hit up on the fact that the catcher position is kind of weak this year. Realmuto, he may not have quite the upside of a Gary Sanchez, but you know what you're getting out of Realmuto. Very good hitter, good lineup. You know, they are a hot team that's right up there with the ability to add Bryce Harper, but even if they don't get Harper, it's already going to be a significantly better lineup this year.
Yeah, exactly. You talked about the Harper, potential. If they added Harper here, all these guys, Hoskins, Realmuto, Segura, who just went, are moving up draft boards because they added another cog in their lineup.
Let's not forget they also got Kutch, and they got a guy like Maciel Franco, who's not bad, and he's another guy who could take a bump up one of these seasons, especially if he's got a ton of pressure off of him batting in the 7th spot.
I forgot about Kutch for a second.
Yeah, and I don't know what to expect out of him.
I don't either.
All right, so again, this probably isn't a lineup I would be drafting in a league because of the 3 outfielders, although I don't really mind it. At this point, even though I tend to wait on pitching, I got a pretty established lineup at this point. I'd like to find a second baseman, but I got my first, third, 2 middle infield spots taken. I'm probably going to wait on catcher until Gary Sanchez. If I don't get him, I'll go a little bit later. Now is a spot where I need to start eyeing up starting pitching. And I'm looking at Jose Barrios right there, and I'm hoping that he falls to me. Now, Barrios is a guy that, we've seen both sides of the coin on this one. We've seen him look like a dominant ace, and we've seen him look like an absolute gas can early on in his career.
I'm up right now. Wow, I didn't even realize I was up. I'm taking Barrios. Sorry. Had to do it to you.
Well, I don't really care that much because it's pretty late. But the point was, he's a guy who gives you potential number 1 overall upside. All right, I'm going to make a homer pick right here. But I also don't believe that drafting Jesus Aguilar, who was a top overall first baseman last year, I just think a lot of people don't believe in him yet based on the smaller sample size, where having watched all of his at-bats, this guy can just flat out hit.
Yeah, so I just want to touch on Barrios real quick because I did take him. A couple things. One, he's another guy that spent a lot of the offseason getting in shape. And I only took him right there because you were talking about him, and I'm a Barrios fan, and I was running out of time. So, again, I apologize for stealing your guy.
Yeah, I think we'll be okay right here. I'm coming up again real soon, and this is a point where I need to start adding son of a bitch.
Yeah,
I was just about to take Fultonevich, and somebody stole them from me. So I do like David.
This is a problem with waiting for pitching. If you wait too long, sometimes a lot of it can go right before you want to take it.
All right, so I got two other pitchers down here I like a lot. Zack Wheeler, who was one of the best pitchers last year. He was a top 5 pitcher throughout the second half. And then another guy right below him that I'll take so you can't, which is Herman Marques. We love Marquez. This guy's stuff is absolutely filthy. Our first overall fantasy baseball video this year was on Herman Marquez. We love him. I don't care that he pitches in Coors. We are both gigantic fans.
I'm on the clock. I'll trade you Barrios for Marquez after the draft. It just slipped my mind. So I'm back on the clock here. Again, no one is calling my name here. And another guy, kind of like your Aguilar pick, that I don't think people are buying. And I'm going to say to them, why not? I'm going to take Scooter Gennett.
Sure. That's it makes a lot of sense. Again, it goes back to an emerging lineup in a joke of a ballpark. And he's been really good since getting to Cincinnati. Why people won't buy into him is beyond me.
I don't get it.
So on the clock or up right now, you're going to see a couple of guys we like. I love the potential upside of a Yasiel Puig in a small ballpark like this, getting to play every single day. It's a little bit riskier. Right below him, we both love David Dahl. We did an extended video on him as well. I've got a pretty loaded outfield, so I probably wouldn't go there myself, but I think that's a great pick at number 91. David Price is a solid starting pitcher, and if I'm going to be looking to grab Zack Wheeler, but if Zack Wheeler's gone, I don't mind having David Price on my squad, just as a guy to eat up some innings, give you solid production. It ain't the sexiest pick in the world, but you can't make all upside plays.
No, and there are a couple guys here that I like as upside plays. We talked about Alberto Mondesi, who I like a lot.
Yep.
And another guy who was another pitcher we both liked going into last year, Luis Castillo.
Yeah, good strikeout numbers. Out of that sophomore slump, he was really inconsistent last year, but I can live with a young guy who's inconsistent, knowing that he has the actual stuff to emerge as a dominant ace.
And he was really, struggled at the beginning of the year, but he got better as the year went on. And again, out of that sophomore slump, et cetera, we talked about it.
Right. We saw a lot of inconsistencies from him, but you still saw signs of greatness throughout, different starts, which is all you can really look for out of a younger pitcher many times.
Mm-hmm. I'm up again right now, and the cases can be made. And from where you sit, I think Michael Brantley is a solid play. I've got my middle infield pretty sewn up. I need a first baseman, surprisingly. So let me check who's there.
Matt Olson, middle infield, corner outfield. You got Matt Chapman right there.
And we got Joey Gallo farther down. So maybe I'll wait on that because I like Gallo. All right. So in the spirit of not taking too long to pick, I'm going to just do something crazy and load up here because it's a mock draft and take Gary Sanchez and put him in my DH.
And in a different league, in a league that's active in trades, that could be an interesting theory. So I'm going to go back to Zack Wheeler, and I'm going to draft him. But just to talk him through real quickly, this is a guy that I like more than you do. He was a top 5 fantasy and a top 5 overall pitcher throughout the second half of last season. This is a guy that the Mets had right there with Syndergaard and Jacob deGrom to be aces of the future. He got stuck with injuries for many, many years. Now, that does give me cause for pause. I'm not going to lie. But you also have top 5 starting pitcher potential right there, as we've now seen it for all of the second half of last year, even a little bit more than the second half. He's got one of the best fastballs in the game. He plays in a decent pitcher's park. I'm going to grab Zack Wheeler. My big concern with him is the injury history. And I was looking at James Paxton, but James Paxton hasn't been any better than what we saw to Zack Wheeler for the second half of last year, but I had to go 5 or 6 rounds earlier on him.
Mm-hmm. I get it.
So, and we have some guys where I like them more than you do, and you have guys you like more than I do. I like Wheeler more than you do, but I don't think you think he's a bad player or anything like that. It's just you don't buy into it quite as much as I do.
Yes, agreed. And it's a new year, so if he starts off this year like he did last year, things might change quickly for me there.
All right, and I'm going to go right back to another guy who was my darling from 2 years ago when I drafted him 12th, 13th round in all of my leagues, and he ended up being one of the top overall fantasy pitchers. Had a rough go of it at points last year, but we know what Robbie Ray offers from strikeout potential. And if he gets it together with his control more so than he had it last year, I mean, Robbie Ray is another guy with top 10 starting pitcher potential.
Yes, a big if, but most definitely.
Be prepared for your whip to take a hit.
Yeah, hopefully he can find some semblance of the strike zone. I'm back on the board here. So a couple different ways I can go. I'm going to take a shot on a guy who just got a bump with Bryce Harper signing because I need outfield and I like the power. Will Myers. Yeah, Machado, excuse me, and take Will Myers. I needed both corner infield positions and outfield help, so he fits all that.
He's another guy that we're still waiting for the potential to really come through, and he's another guy plagued with injuries throughout his career. When we've seen him be able to play for an extended period of time, he's been good. He has some extended slumps, but there's a lot of talent there, speed and power. Having Machado around should take some pressure off of him. You just need the guy to stay in the lineup.
Yeah, exactly. And again, if this were a real draft, I never would have taken Gary Sanchez there because I got other holes to fill. But I'm going to go right back to a guy I just talked about and take Joey Gallo and take Myers and Gallo to kind of fill a bunch of those spots.
Gallo's another guy where I recommend people, and this goes for all sports, but know your league. If you get hurt by strikeouts, Gallo is not as good. It's also much better to get him in an OBP league as opposed to an average league because his on-base percentage isn't the hit that his average is. All right. I'm going to grab Travis Shaw right here. And the big thing for Travis Shaw, I think he is aptly ranked for third base eligibility. But when you throw a 30-plus home run guy in with second base eligibility, which he likely won't lose because with Mustaka signing, he'll play some time there. Travis Shaw is a lot of power for a second baseman.
Most definitely. And we're now starting to get to the point of the draft, which in reality kind of tells the story of why I like MLB DFS so much. Because all these guys are on any single day, could be the best player on any given slate. We're now in round 12, 13. But on any given day, any of these guys right here could, first off, not only have breakout years, but have stretches where they play really good ball.
All right, so I'm going to be up here again in a second, and I'm going to grab Wilson Contreras unless he goes right before me. This is another great example of take a guy who was going 5 or 6 or 7 rounds earlier last year. Wilson Contreras had a great season in 2017. Wasn't very good in 2018. Had no power to show from. I don't know if he was just slumped, lost his confidence, or he had an injury that maybe we didn't know about, which is very realistic for somebody who plays the catcher position. But a huge bounce back opportunity for him, and it gives me an opportunity to get a piece of that Cubs offense. We know the Cubs are going to score runs. They play in a great ballpark in the summertime for runs. They got good players in Bryant and Rizzo and Javier Baez. So I want to get a piece right here, and Wilson Contreras is a bounce back candidate.
Most definitely. If I didn't have 2 catchers already, definitely would have been someone I'm looking at. So for me and the guy I just wanted to take went, and that's Sean Doolittle. So we're now at the point where relief pitchers are far and few between right now. Who's the closer for the Brewers this year? Knebel? He's for sure their closer.
Oh, God, he was so good down the stretch last year. Yeah, I'm sure.
There we go. There's my pick right there because, the Brewers are a really good team. To have their closer left on the board is awesome. I mean, look, Jose Leclerc just went for the Rangers.
The only reason the Brewers aren't like a clear favorite to be like a lock-it division winner is because they play in a really good division, and the Cardinals are good, and the Cubs are good. And, that's the big knock on them right now is they're going to win games. It just, you can't call them a clear-cut favorite to repeat because they play in a really good division. Even the Reds and the Pirates are no slouches.
Yeah, and a pick that was just made, Josh Donaldson. I know you made a video about him when I was a little under the weather. I like him a lot this year, assuming he can stay healthy.
Right, and that's a big thing. He's at that point of his career where is health going to be an underlying issue for him every year? We don't know. But you're taking a shot with a guy who gives you legitimate round 3, round 4 upside, if not higher. He's still, if you projected out his last 2 seasons into 1 year, he's still close to a 40 home run guy.
Yeah, agreed. So again, I'm going to go right back and take another closer because there's none left. I'm going to take Cody Allen for the Angels now. Interested to see where you go in this department.
For closers, I usually do the same thing for closers every year. I take a bunch of chances later in the rounds with the guys who might be the closer, might not hit the waiver wire, don't prioritize it or anything like that. You know, a lot of times in a roto league, I'll end up right in the middle somewhere by doing that, but I don't spend a lot of money on it. So, okay. If we look through my team right now, I've got my offense pretty well established. I could use another outfielder at this point, or I could continue to pound pitching from a starting perspective or a relief pitching perspective. Now, even though I just went on and on about how I definitely wait on closers, if I find a guy like I feel,
but you've waited.
Yeah. Oh, well, I usually wait till the end. But if I find a guy who's at value, like I think Wade Davis is fair value right here. I don't have any pressing holes I need to address immediately. I'm not a huge Chris Archer guy. And there's other guys here I like, but nobody I'm like, man, I really need that dude on my squad. So this might be a spot where if in a roto league, which I primarily play in, just getting one guy who can lock down 30 to 35 saves for you, realistically, like that can get you from 1 to 4 right there.
Okay, yeah, I get that. Especially in a roto league, it makes a lot of sense. And no arguments for me there. Wade Davis was a guy that was sticking out.
I don't try to play the game to get a 10 in saves. Just get me above the guys. Oh, am I? Just get me above the guys who don't pick any closers. Get me in the middle. And if I happen to run into a couple guys on the waiver wire, great. If not, we'll move on. Mazara is a guy I'm going to be looking at right here. Alvarado. There's definitely – I'm pretty well set on my offense. I like LeMahieu as an option right there for some people. Billy Hamilton is a guy that might run a lot. He just stinks. So if you really wanted – there isn't anybody right here that I'm really loving, but I'll take Kyle Freeland. We like Freeland a lot. We like this young Colorado Rockies pitching staff, and the Rockies to me like a dark horse World Series candidate for this year.
Potentially, yeah, I could get on board with that.
You love Marquez. We think Marquez is, at the end of the year, he's not likely going to be the number 1 overall fantasy pitcher because he does pitch in Colorado. But at the end of the season, you people out there outside of me and you who already look at him this way, he could be viewed as one of the best pitchers in baseball.
Mm-hmm. So I'm back on the clock now, and I feel like I need a starting pitcher to go along with the 2 I have. No one's jumping out at me. It does seem like Chris Archer should no longer be on the board, but I feel like I'm picking him just off name. So continue with my Phillies, theme. I'm going to go with a young guy with upside and Nick Pivetta.
All right, I get that. You got to make some upside plays. He's got high K potential. If you play in a wins league, he's got a lot more opportunities for wins this year. I get that one.
So I'm back.
We've seen dominance out of him, right?
Yeah, we have. Back on the clock. And I want to take this guy because, the way ESPN does this and puts these guys like Gallo and Myers in those positions, I wish they had moved him to outfield because then I would take my guy, Miguel Sano, right here.
Okay, get that. All right, so I'm up, and I either need pitching or outfield. And, we saw some great parts from Brandon Nimmo last year. I'm not completely sold on yet that I need to go here. I don't mind the idea of him right there. Again, if you want some outfield, I think LeMahieu, I already have second base locked down, but if you needed that, I think LeMahieu is good value in that Yankees lineup right there. Max Muncy, you know what? I'll put him in my utility spot for right now. I can also move Bellinger to the outfield and play him at first base. Max Muncy was incredible last year. And yeah, there's every opportunity he doesn't repeat what he did last year, but we saw some great stuff out of Max Muncy. I think that's an upside play.
Yeah, I get that. Makes a ton of sense.
All right, at this point, I'm looking for a pitcher I can buy into. I think Buxton is a guy we're taking a shot on right there for some people. Gosman, yeah, it's getting pretty weak right here. I'm going to take a shot with Lucchesi. Lucchesi's a second-year guy. We saw great moments from him last year. Okay, good moments. He's got upside. He's also a guy I know might be back on the waiver wire a month into the season.
Most definitely. Man, I need outfielders right here, so I'm going to take a risk on a guy moving to a new team, a team that's not going to be good, but I don't hate the top of their lineup, and I'm going to roll with Billy Hamilton.
I do like the move to Kansas City for him because that big outfield, they're going to need him to play every day for his defense and his speed. Also, like, he's not a good hitter, but there's more holes in that outfield now than there was in Cincinnati.
Yep.
I mean, talk about a difference in ballparks right there. I mean, there might be legitimately 200 extra square feet in Kansas City than there was in Cincinnati.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, this could be I think he's a big-time sleeper this year. You know, probably going to be batting leadoff for the Royals. They've bought into him. They want him. They signed him. Cincinnati, it seemed like they didn't know what to do with him. You know, batting right in front of Merrifield and Mondesi. I like it.
And because Kansas City sucks, they're going to run because it's their only way to produce runs. Yeah, I feel like when you're a small market team like Kansas City, you sold off all your World Series winning assets. Like, you're not going to outpower people. You don't have that on your squad. So you might as well be the team that is super aggressive and just runs.
Yeah, this is true. Well, I'm back on the clock. Wow, these drafts because no one's drafting right now. So either outfield or pitcher for me still. And yeah, it is it's slim pickings right here right now. Kind of looking for upside. Anyone you can really buy into, like you said. Ooh, man. Well, it seems like Will Smith might be the closer for the Giants, so sure.
And we're at that point of the draft where these guys are rough.
Yeah, it's just true.
So, I mean, Keuchel, we don't know where he's going. Ohtani probably isn't even going to be pitching, but he could also be an everyday bat for me, I guess is one way to look at it. Do you know, is Vizcaino scheduled to start as a closer for Atlanta?
I'm not sure.
All right, well, again, I'll have to do more research on closers, but he's ranked up here for a reason, so it's a spot where I'll take a shot with a guy, and this is kind of what I alluded to. Later in the draft, I'll take a bunch of shots to solidify. You know, I've got my starting pitching. I do need another outfielder, but I'm going to take a shot with some of these guys, you know, later in the draft that they get the closers role and excel in it without spending, you know, a 5th, 6th, and 7th round pick. So Andrew Miller is a guy we know used to be great. I don't know if he's going to be the long guy or the closer. We'll see, but we know that there's greatness within Andrew Miller.
Yeah, especially if you're in like a holds league like you talk about.
Yep.
Oh, yep, I'm back on it. So you know, I'll take a guy that showed a bunch of flashes last year that you never know with a guy like this, and Sean Newcomb.
Sure. I get that. Makes a lot of sense. I'll be coming up again in a little bit, and I'm like looking at some of these outfielders, and it depends. Like, you kind of know what you're getting out of Ryan Braun at this point, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to take another pitcher kind of in that same mold as Newcomb, guy that we liked a bunch last year, Carlos Rodon.
Yeah, good pick.
So,
and now I'm starting to look at him like Byron Buxton is a great upside player right there.
Love it.
Just you're waiting to put it together. But I'm also staring at your Phillies theme right now, and Buxton just went, so it's not even a thing. But Odubel Herrera.
So the only thing about Odubel Herrera, and I like Herrera a lot, is apparently, you know, and this is even before Bryce Harper, he's in a competition with Altair and I can't remember the other guy. It's in my mind for 2 of the spots. So his spot is not guaranteed right now.
All right, so I'm seeing another Braves relief pitcher. So I'm going to double up on Minter and the other guy, Velasquez or whatever his name was. The reason being, those are the guys who are likely going to get the spot for the Atlanta Braves closer. We expect the Braves to win some good games. Now, I'll end up cutting one of these guys, but anybody who's played fantasy baseball for any extended period of time knows that half of your late round picks are cut within a month of the season. So why not? This way, I've solidified more than likely the Braves closer spot. I got both ends of it now. I just need to figure out who it is because we expect the Braves to be pretty good.
Yep.
It's different in baseball when you have your roster's 25 players and you know you're going to switch it around than it is in football when you know that you're going to play most of those guys for as long as possible.
This is so true. Oh, I'm back on the clock. Yeah. So kind of the same theme for me, pitching and outfielders still, because of how ESPN set these rosters with Gallo and Myers. It's very slim. It's just what it is. So I want to go to the outfield and kind of just take the top guy there. And I'll go with Jake Bauers, a guy I'm hearing real good things out of from Cleveland.
Dual eligibility.
Young.
Yeah. Oh, shit. He's on Cleveland now?
Yeah. He was in the Carlos Santana deal.
Didn't even realize that. No, that guy has got a lot of potential. He might suck, but there's like legitimate like round 8 upside right there with dual eligibility. We saw some good stuff from him last year, and we saw a lot of bad stuff. But that's what you're doing when you take a young guy like this. Like, he could be a guy that if things get together for him this year, he could be a big part of pushing your team in the right direction.
Exactly.
And if he sucks, you cut him and move on. It's part of the game.
Exactly. I mean, that's baseball for you, especially when you're picking this deep. A lot of these guys could suck. Who knows what's going to, a lot of these guys are question marks, and that's why they're going so late.
Right. If late in the round, I want to swing for it. You know what I mean? Like, I want to take a shot at hitting a home run.
Mm-hmm. And what's funny is even guys like last year,
right now.
I am up. Even guys picked like last year. Some of these guys had really good years last year. Matt Kemp, all the San Diego guys. Teoscar Hernandez. Hell, I'm taking Teoscar. Why not?
When I get up here in a second, I'm going to grab number 273 overall, Domingo Santana, a guy on the move. This is a guy that I know because he used to play for my team. This guy hit 30 bombs 2 years ago and just didn't get an opportunity to play last year because the Brewers had Christian Yelich, Ryan Braun, Eric Thames, and Lorenzo Cain. He's going to be an everyday player for Seattle, probably hitting right there in the 3 or the 4 hole. Things could go very well for him, and that's a guy I like taking a shot on right there. He's still pretty young, too. All right. Grabbing some depth here. Alex Reyes. Upside, young guy for the Cardinals. When all else fails, if I'm going to take a shot on somebody, I like taking a shot on somebody for a good franchise like the St. Louis Cardinals.
Hell yeah, a young pitcher like that with upside, agreed. And I know I'm back on the clock. So, man, there's so many guys with potential here. Eric Thames, if he was in the right spot.
Yeah, I don't know how much he's going to play.
Oh, Gregory Polanco. I no longer need outfielders, so I'm just going to take the best available. And for me, the best available right now is not much. We'll take a rookie who's got big-time upside, and if he gets the call for Cincinnati, could make a big impact, and Nick Senzel kind of gives me just a chance to call his name out.
All right, and for me, I mean, I'm probably going to take Dylan Bundy if he comes back to me, although you're up right now, so I'll let you talk.
Yeah, I'm up right now again. I'm going to take a guy kind of with that Philly theme, with that Miguel Sano theme, Miguel Franco.
Yep. And I'm going to go with Dylan Bundy. Why? Because we've seen him especially start years really well. And if that means I ride the strikeout train early on and then have to cut him, so be it. We've seen him look like a dominant ace at points, and then we've seen things go really poorly for him. So I'm going to take a shot with him. And he's another guy. This late in the draft, darn well there's an opportunity halfway through the year or even sooner than that. He won't be on my team.
Yeah, and that's all you can say right now.
Grab one more relief pitcher who might be at the possibility of earning some save opportunities. Nothing's looking overly sexy right here. I already grabbed Andrew Miller, so I'm also going to go with Jordan Hicks as an opportunity to maybe get the Cardinals closer.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. All All right, so I kind of am going to follow your theme, and this is deep, but I mean, he's supposed to be the closer there. I'm going to take Sergio Romo for the Marlins.
Why not? It's the last pick. We know darn well these guys we pick at the end may not be on our roster in a little bit. So it is what it is. Just a quick review. I got my lineup up right there. Went outfield heavy really early. Not normally something I go with, although I do like Betts, Acuna, and Bryce Harper as a 1-2-3 position eligibility. I'm not a big fan of what I did, but enjoyed the first 3 picks. I normally look to solidify my offense early on and then go middle rounds oftentimes to get a couple of potential stud pitchers. Marquez, Wheeler, Robbie Ray, all 3 of those guys have the potential to be top 10 starting pitchers. They also have potential to not be very good, but hopefully I can hit on at least 1 or 2 of them. Yeah,
most definitely.
Other than that, it is what it is at the end of the draft. You're taking shots with guys you think got upside.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else to add, Matt?
No, that's all I got. It was a lot of fun. Hopefully we'll do mock draft 3 soon.
Sounds good, guys. Thanks for watching. Baseball will be here before we know it.
Thanks, guys.